Welcome back to Public Health Matters, where we talk about matters in public health. I'm Jane Goodman from the Division of Public Health and Community Services, and I'm now joined by Kathy Farland. Welcome, Kathy.
Thanks for having me.
Kathy is the director of Stepping Stones,
Yes.
which is a relatively new nonprofit.
Yeah, we've been open almost 10 months now.
Oh, almost 10 months. So we're getting you in before the year is up, so that's fabulous. Stepping Stones, and I'm just going to read your mission, so just to give our folks at home a little orientation, is your goal. Your mission is to help homeless, unaccompanied youth ages 12 to 25 become happy, self-sufficient adults. And we were talking a little bit before the show. I was thinking, you looked familiar to me, so I thought I must know you from another nonprofit. And turns out, no, I don't, because you were an accountant prior to this, but you have a very interesting story about how you started doing this work. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that would be
Sure.
great.
So yeah, before this, I was an accountant for about 25 years, so this is a big switch for me. But yeah, the reason I ended up getting into it is because my husband and I were foster parents for about a decade. We had almost 40 kids that we had fostered over that time period. But we took all preschool age kids, which means we had very young parents of the kids. And part of being foster parents is to help the birth parents remake those connections. And what we found is that the adult kids that we were working with, is that they just didn't really know how to get out of the situations they were in. They didn't know what resources were available, and more often than not, they ended up losing custody of their children. So as our foster kids got older, one of those things where last time you saw a kid and they were 3, and you think they're always like 5 or 6, and all of a sudden they're like 22. So we keep track of that, and we were realizing that kids that were aging out of DCYF sometimes had nowhere to go when they aged out, and that got me thinking about getting involved with this, and so I joined the COC Continuum of Care Ending Youth Homelessness Committee in last June, and then we opened in December.
Wow, you work fast.
So I was on a mission.
Yeah. So this is really a passion project for you, as
Very
well as
much.
a job, of course.
Very much so.
And what I think is really interesting and surprising and heartbreaking is what you kind of just described. And I don't know that people realize this or not, but if a child's in foster care or in a group home and they turn 18, they're no longer eligible to be those foster children or in those group homes.
Right.
And they often have not been equipped with the right skills to live on their own. I mean, just imagine 18, how are you going to cope? So the need is very great.
And that's it. And it's not even necessarily kids that are, aging out of DCYF, but any 18-year-old. I mean, kids at 18 generally across the board are not equipped to be able to do adulting.
Right.
They don't know how to get apartments. They don't know how, they haven't had full-time jobs. They don't know how to budget, how to handle so many of these things that we don't learn until we're a little bit older, and that our parents help us with. So for the kids that have aged out and don't have those families to help them with it, or 70% of our homeless youth are homeless because their situation at home was abusive. So it's not just kids at DCYF, it's kids that never made it to DCYF, and that their home situations were so bad that they feel safer being on the street than they do living where they were living. So they're already starting way behind the 8 ball on trying to do these adulting things without really any support.
So it can be very difficult day to day. With some of the clients, I'll use client, or some of the kids that you're seeing, they're kids to me.
I call them my kiddos all the time.
Yeah.
That half of them call me mom. So.
Oh, that's very sweet. So tell me, what is the problem in Nashua? I mean, I don't often see the youngest people, living on the streets, or when I'm downtown, when I'm around our office. So I'm just What is the extent of the problem in Nashua? What's the estimate?
So most people don't see them. The younger kids, especially the ones under 18, don't want to be found. They don't want to be seen, mostly because they don't want to be sent to whatever situation it was that they ran away from, or, you know, they might have been thrown out of their homes depending on the situation that they were in. So they don't want to be found, and that's why you don't see a lot of them. A lot of my kids last winter, I had kids sleeping under the bridge. I had kids camping out in Mines Falls areas, sleeping in their cars, you know, all through the winter. And it's a tough place for them to be able to move from, because when you're so focused on if you're going to be able to find a safe place to sleep tonight, it's hard to think about finishing school or or getting a career, or even, you know, getting a driver's license. How do you get a driver's license if you can't practice driving? How do you get a birth certificate? This is one of that makes me crazy. You can't get a birth certificate without a picture ID. You can't get a picture ID without a birth certificate. You can't get a job without a picture ID. So, you know, you see sometimes people like, well, they should just go get a job. It's like, you can't legally work without those documents, and you can't get one document without the other. So unless they have a place that can help them with something like that, they're literally stuck. And it's such a simple thing that really is literally a 5-minute fix. But if they don't have anywhere to go to help them do that, they can't get a job. They can't apply for housing. They can't get food stamps because they need the IDs and they need these documents. So they can't really get any help with something as simple as just being able to do those couple of things.
So they're coming, so I read somewhere around 400 homeless?
Yes, sorry, that was the original question.
Yeah, no, but
yeah. So that's based off of an estimate. Chapin Hill did a study that's used widely across the country, that 1 in 10 kids between the ages of 18 and 25 will be homeless at least once this year. 1 in 10. And 1 in 30 kids between the ages of 13 and 17 will be homeless sometime this year. So if you think about a classroom in a school, about 30 kids, one of those kids in every single one of those classes is going to be homeless sometime during this year. So it is a tremendously large population, much more so than you think, because we don't see them. Now, some of those kids are couch surfing, so they're not sleeping outside. And of course, for the kids under 18, they have to be somewhere else. They're not allowed into shelters unaccompanied if they're under the age of 18. So they can't even go to the emergency shelters. So they try to stay with friends. They'll sleep in hallways in the parking garages. They'll sleep under the bridges, and anywhere that they find that they think will be fairly safe for them that evening.
Safety is a huge issue when you're out on the streets.
There's stuff gets stolen all the time. You know, sometimes the kids will actually walk all night to stay awake, and then they'll come, now that we have the drop-in center, they'll come to the drop-in center and they'll sleep for like 6 hours because they've been up all night.
Now, is there a place? So tell me what's at the drop-in center.
So the drop-in center, we have a bunch of different things. We have lockers for the kids so that they can keep their belongings there and they don't have to worry about them being stolen. And they don't have to take them at the end of the day. They can leave them there for as long as they want. They come in and grab them. We've got shower and laundry that the kids come in and do. Nothing, there's no charge for anything. We've got the kitchen where they can, you know, make meals. We've got a free shelf where they can take stuff with them when they go. We've got a rec room that has computer games and movies and puzzles, and a lot of the kids are playing the Magic Gathering now. It's a card game.
Oh,
so
never heard of it.
So they play that one a lot. We've got a baby room for our kids that have kids, and we've got a quiet room where the kids can take a nap, listen quietly to music, draw, read. It's a little quieter. Sometimes the rec room can get a little loud.
A little busy.
Yeah, if they're all playing video games. We've got a computer room where they can go in and use the computers, and we've got a clothes closet where they can come in and get clothes if they need them. And we have our apartment room. So when our kids get new apartments, we're able to outfit them with all the things for the kitchen, the bedroom, their bathroom, and they can come in and go shopping.
Nice.
So they come in and they're able to pick out all the
And
things
how do
they
you
want.
stock that? Do you ask for donations, or you just buy it through your budget? Or?
It is all donations. Our budget as a new nonprofit is practically non-existent, but we've had tremendous support from several of the local church groups. They have been amazing at keeping us stocked with some of the things that we need for the kids. You know, we've had some corporate sponsorship help. We don't get any state or federal funding at all, and we've had one grant from the city. So it's a mishmash of things, but it is really very much a community effort, just between individual donors. You know, I had put something on our Facebook page last night that we needed tents. I've got 3 kids right now. They're sleeping outside without even a tent, and I posted it. And by this morning, I had 2 different people that had ordered 2 tents each.
Wow.
So I've got 4 tents coming that we'll have for the kids in the next couple days.
And do you keep a wish list on your website?
We do. Yep.
Okay, because I'm going to go back and look. I'm just curious. Maybe we can post that later.
Yeah.
Because that's important. I know the soup kitchen does that too. That they have wish lists. Sometimes they need certain things, and so I think that definitely is a cause that a lot of people would like to support. They just need to know a little bit more about it, and that's why you're here, so we can hear more about it.
Absolutely.
So I was reading a little bit, doing a little research. I'm not an expert, but I noticed that there were some risk factors for being homeless as a youth. And so some of them were just lack of education, not being able to finish your high school degree or even your GED, which leaves you in that predicament of finding a job without even that diploma. Low income seemed to be
which is
a marker for it.
which is tied to education. About 85% of kids that are homeless have either dropped out of school or have been expelled from school.
Okay.
So only about 15% of them are even high school graduates, let alone any type of additional training from there. So yeah, that it does keep them in the very lowest paying jobs, which again makes it almost impossible for them to be able to live on their own.
Right. Now, do you work with them to get their GED, or is that down the road, hopefully, or?
Yeah, actually we have My Turn, which is a agency that's actually in our same building that will work with some of the kids if they meet the qualifications to help them with that, and they'll help them with job training. What we really try to do is we try not to do everything in-house. There's already a lot of great community organizations.
Try to connect.
Yeah, so our job is to fill the gaps, to be that home base for them, and to fill those gaps for things that they don't have resources for, and for us to get them the resources for that's already out there.
So how are they finding you? Who's referring them to you? Who are you walking the streets and finding people? You know, you're going to Mines Falls. You know, how are you finding people?
It's a little of everything. We do some street outreach where we actually go out and talk to the kids. Of course, you can't tell necessarily looking at them, although, you know, over the summer and last year, it was pretty easy to tell if you saw a kid walking around with a backpack, they weren't headed to school. And that's usually a fairly good indicator right there. So we do some street outreach and just try to talk to the kids and let them know if they know anybody that's homeless, that we're available. And often they'll be like, hey, I'm homeless. You know, what's the deal with this program? So we find some that way. We get referrals from some other agencies. Revive, actually, has referred over some kids from Bridges for domestic violence, the city. So they come from here and there, the school district. And
so the word is getting out.
It is starting to, which is good.
So, and then I also see LGBTQ youth are at high risk.
Yes.
Is that because they're being asked to leave their homes, or?
Usually, yes. Either they're being asked to leave, or they aren't comfortable in their home.
Staying in their home.
Yeah. So it may be what they call a throwaway, which means they've been thrown out of their house, which could be for something like that. It could be for an unplanned pregnancy. It could be just a financial situation where the family might have so many younger kids that they really can't support the older ones, and they need them to move out and be able to do their own things. So it can be a combination of a lot of different things. Yeah, but, you know, parenting youth are another big one that end up being homeless as well.
If they're if they are parents.
If they are, right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you obviously don't stop at 18. You go
No.
beyond 18 to help, because they're still kids, even at 22, if they're, you know, not in a stable housing situation.
And that's exactly, yep, we actually go up to 25.
Okay.
Our kids, I have kids that are 25 that come now. And yeah, what we found actually is that even we've had really great success getting the kids apartments. We now have, in the almost 10 months we've been open, we have 11 kids that are now in their own apartments that we've been able to help them get, which is tremendous. It doesn't come anywhere near fixing the problem, but it's a good start.
Right. Well, one thing at a time. Have a safe place to sleep and to have your meals, and
Exactly.
maybe, you know, shower so you can go to work and that kind of thing. That's a huge step up, because you really have to have housing. It's a basic need.
And that's exactly it. And a lot of times the kids can't really focus on anything else until they have that safe place to go. But what we found is that even once the kids get their apartments, they're calling and stopping by regularly. I need help with this, or I don't understand what this is that they sent me, or you know, paperwork, or just sometimes just to celebrate, you know. Hey, just want to let you know I got a new job and I'm really excited about it. And it's like, that's great. So it's been really cool to continue to see our kids even once they've got their housing, and you know, be able to continue to be that support for them to continue that journey to adulting that they're going through.
Right. Well, I would imagine as time goes on too, you'll be able to see more of those success stories, because you're still really in your infancy. You're not.
We are. We are. It's been quite a roller coaster year.
So, how many staff do you have?
So up until about 3 weeks ago, it was just me.
Oh, and that's why we had trouble getting you on TV.
Yes. Yes. I actually have 2 part-time people now. A administrative person who does so much backstage stuff. Bevan keeps just things running smoothly. And then we now have a part-time program coordinator. So she's working more with the kids while they're there, and we're starting to do more activities with them. We're going to be doing a self-defense class with Tokyo Joe's. We're working with the Y to be able to take the kids up there to shoot baskets and go swimming and do that, you know, a couple times a week. We're doing a pumpkin carving. We're doing some art classes that Dana will be running. So we're really trying to expand, you know, cooking classes. We're going to be starting cooking classes too. So we're really trying to expand what the kids have to do during the day while they're there. And hopefully that will continue to bring some more of the kids in.
And so so you're there just 8 to 5? Like, what are the hours if someone's hearing this and wants to refer someone over there?
Right now it's 8 to 4 Monday through Friday,
Okay.
Which is not ideal. I would ideally love to be open 7 to 7, 7 days a week, but we're just not there yet.
Right.
So,
it will take more funding.
It will. It will. So if anybody wants to send us checks for several hundred thousands of dollars, you know, I'd be happy to take those.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big piece of it. But we are, you know, we've been really lucky with the staff that I have. They're great with the kids, and our whole thing is we want to make sure the kids are comfortable there. And sometimes they'll come in and they'll spend 15 minutes and they'll be in and out, and sometimes they'll be there from the time we open to the time we close. It just depends on what they have going on.
Right, and what their day's like, and what happened yesterday, and
Exactly.
what they have to look forward to the next day. So depends if it must be hard though, if they're leaving at 4 to kind of not know where they're going for some of them.
Yes, that is probably the toughest part of this, especially when it was, you know, last winter when it was cold out and I knew I had kids sleeping under the bridge. You know, if they're camping out, or it's their first night, you know, or their first couple nights being on their own, and they just don't know where is a safe place to go. That is by far the hardest part. One of the things we're actually hoping to be able to do in the next year or so, because we haven't done enough yet. I need more things to do. Is we're hoping to be able to do a transitional living program,
Okay.
so that the kids would actually have a place to sleep and then still be able to work on a lot of these skills that they've been working on, but just in a little bit more of a structured environment.
Now, are some of these kids able to access the shelters that are in the area, or are they too young, or,
They are, if there's availability at the shelters, they can access them. Most of the kids are not comfortable at the shelters. It's a very different demographic, and they oftentimes will prefer to be outside or staying somewhere else rather than at the shelter. It's just not a comfortable place for them.
Yeah. So this gives them an alternative, at least during the day, because I know, for example, a lot of the shelters during the day are closed.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of the reverse. So you guys are open during the day and keeping your fingers crossed at night that they have a safe place to sleep and spend some time outside.
They couch surf when they can, and probably about half my kids, will have a roof over their head at least, at night for that particular night. But there's no guarantee for how long that'll last.
Right. Well, I can see that this is deeply a passion project for you, as you refer to them as my kids.
All the time.
So about how many are there, like now, do you think, like your census, like during the week?
We have different amounts of kids every day because it's different ones that pop in. We usually have between 5 and 10 kids on any particular day that will either stop in or be there all day. But I've got to say, I'm so impressed with the kids and their resiliency, and just when they're able to just get some of these small roadblocks out of their way, they can just fly. They're getting jobs. I've got kids in school. I've got one of my kids was one of the kids that was sleeping under the bridge last winter, and he's finished his LNA certification. He's bought a car. He's finishing up for his driver's license, and he's moving into his new apartment on Monday.
Wow.
So
that feels good.
It's really cool to see how they want to do these things. They don't want to be homeless. This isn't where they want to be. They want to be successful. They just need some of these
need
supports.
some tools and some supports. Well, thank you for providing that for our future, really, for the kids that are out there and in unfortunate situations. And I hope that the more that need this service can find it. And it must be some word of mouth as also, like, among the kids, or?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of our kids will bring in other kids from time to time that they know, and they'll come in and they'll be like, "It's okay, talk to her, it's okay."
Yeah.
Because it can be scary for any kid that's in a situation like that, to walk into some place they don't know, and they don't know what's going to happen, and they don't know what they're going to be asked, and they don't know what's going to be expected of them. So that is a big first step for them, to even just be able to walk in the door, but they become comfortable really quickly. And they'll go, they'll lounge, or they'll take a nap and grab something to eat, and it a lot of the kids like, this is very much like a home environment. They're just comfortable here. They come in, they wave to me, "Hey." It's like, "Hey." Off they go, and they go do their own thing in the center.
That's great. Well, congratulations.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry that we have this need in Nashua, but I'm really glad that you're doing something about it, and that you've had the success in a really short period of time. Sometimes the problems feel so big, but you're chipping away at it. So I want to thank you for all your work, and remind our audience that they can go on Stepping Stones and look at that wish list or make a donation, help keep all of our kids safe, and get them to a point where they're independent.
That's our goal, and they'll get there. They'll get there with the support. So we'll just keep working on it.
All right. Well, thank you, Kathy.
Well, thank you for
we
having
look
me.
forward to. We'll have you back and see how it's going.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us on Public Health Matters. Don't forget, vaccines are available at vaccines.gov. Easy to get, COVID shot, and it's flu season, so don't forget to get your flu shot.